All right, welcome everybody. Today we're reviewing order of operations, and I really like this review topic because this is one of those things that is never going to go away. When you learned about this last year, maybe in 5th grade a little bit, I know it seemed new, it seemed kind of weird that you had to start worrying about this, but from here on out, for the rest of your mathematical career, whether it's through high school, college, or something you do for a living, order of operations always matters. Every single math problem you ever do, you have to use the order of operations. This isn't something that we only do sometimes. This is something that we always do to solve a math problem. And the reason that we have these, the order of operations, is just to make sure that everyone is solving the problem the same way. If you look at the first together problem, 15 times 3 plus 12 times 2, mathematicians, we needed to come up with a way to make sure that everybody solved this the same way. Because depending on how you do it, if you add the numbers and then multiply over here and then multiply over here, you'll get a different answer than if you multiply, then add, then multiply. So we came up with the order of operations, just a way to make sure that everybody, no matter what country you're in, no matter where you are, everybody is solving this problem the same way. It helps us avoid a lot of confusion, and it just makes the math a lot more clear, and make sure we're doing the same thing. So order of operations, the biggest thing that you probably remember about the order of operations is the phrase PEMDAS, right? P-E-M-D-A-S. And you may have had this little diagram that showed you the order that you're supposed to solve the problem in. And in the first box is the P for parentheses. In the second box was an E for exponents. And then in the third and fourth boxes, we have M for multiply, and we had D for division. And down here at the bottom, the A and the S stand for addition and subtraction. Now, just a couple of things that are different from last year, a couple of things I want to make sure that you understand about the order of operations, is parentheses does not just mean parentheses. Okay, when we talk about parentheses, what it really means is groups. In fact, what we're going to do, let's get rid of that P and let's put a G for the word groups. One kind of group is parentheses. Yes, everything inside a parenthesis you're supposed to do first. All right, but another type of group that you've seen are brackets, like this. That's another type of group. And there's more than that in math. These are the two that you're going to see the most this year. But an important one that a lot of people forget is an actual group is the fraction bar, or the division sign can be a group. And when you have stuff on top and stuff on the bottom, everything on top is a group and everything on bottom is a group. And let me show you what I mean. Let's say that I have 12 minus 6 on top and 3 minus 2 on bottom. We want to be really careful because the top of the fraction bar is actually a group. But sometimes in our math books, sometimes in the worksheets, they don't always show you them as a group. But the easiest way to do it is to pretend that there's parentheses. Pretend that there's parentheses on the top and pretend that there's parentheses on the bottom, because we have to do that first. We have to do 12 minus 6 before we can divide by 3. And we have to do 3 minus 2 before we can divide the top by the bottom. That's a group. The top is one group, the bottom is another group. So instead of PEMDAS, this year we're going to call it, my kids last year called it GEMDAS. And you can come up with your own saying if you want, but just remember that P doesn't just mean parentheses. It means a group. So we do those first, and then we move on to the exponents in a problem. Remember, exponents we talked about yesterday. Those are things like x squared or 7 to the 4th power. But it also means square roots. That's also another form of exponents. So those things are what we do second after we do groups. Third and fourth, if you notice that we drew them next to each other, and the reason that we did that is because multiplying and dividing is actually the same thing. They're equal to each other. We don't do multiply before we divide. The way that we do multiplying and dividing is we work left to right. And I'll show you an example. That's probably the best way to see it. But we're going to multiply and divide equally, but we're going to work left to right. And right here I'm going to show you an example of why this is important. Let's say that I have a problem that says 10 divided by 5 multiplied by 2. A lot of my 7th graders coming up from 6th grade think, oh, the division is on the left, but there's a multiplication, so I have to do 5 times 2 before I divide. And that's not true. Multiplication and division are equal. This division sign and this multiplication sign are equal. The way that we decide which one happens first is we start from the left and we go to the right. So if I start my problem going this way, I've got 10 divided by 5. I need to do that before I multiply by 2. So 10 divided by 5 is 2, and now I'm left with 2 multiplied by 2, which is 4. So divide, multiply, those are equal. We don't work one before the other, we work left to right. And the same thing for addition and subtraction. Once all the parentheses are gone, once the exponents are gone, once multiplying and dividing is all done, we're left with addition and subtraction, which are also equal. So we add and we subtract left to right, just like we multiply and we divide. So for example, if I have 12 minus 6 plus 4, I don't do 6 plus 4 and then subtract that from 12. And you're going to see later when we start talking about integers why it's important that we work left to right. Plus and minus are equal. So I do 12 minus 6 first, and I'm left with 6 plus 4, which becomes 10. We've got to be very, very careful that we don't always do addition before subtraction. We work left to right. Okay? So as far as doing these practice problems, if I can get my lights to turn back on. As far as doing these problems, what we're going to do first is these together problems. Now, I'm going to show you how to do them in the calculator, but I really want to focus on doing them by hand before we do that. So we've got 15 times 3 plus 12 times 2. I'm going to go down my list. I don't have any groups. There's no parentheses. I don't have any exponents. There's nothing with an exponent here. I do have multiplication. No division, but I do have multiplication. So I'm going to multiply everything first. So 15 times 3, that's 45. So I rewrite it. 45 plus 12 times 2. Now, just because I multiplied one thing doesn't mean now I just start working left to right. Because I have addition, but I still have multiplication. I've got to multiply. I've got to multiply before I do this addition. So I need to do 12 times 2. So 45 plus 12 times 2, that's 24. Now I can do my addition. 45 plus 24 equals 69. And I'm done. So we need to make sure that we're working left to right at the right times and that we're following this order of things. For example, down here, let's go down to 96 divided by 4 plus 5 times 2 squared. I don't have any groups, but I do have an exponent right here, 2 squared. So I need to do that first. So 96 divided by 4 plus 5 times 2 squared is 4. Now I have division, addition, multiplication. I don't multiply first because I go left to right. I need to do my division before I multiply. So 96 divided by 4 is 24 plus 5 times 4. And again, I still need to follow the order of operations. A lot of you now are going to just do 24 plus 5 and then times it by 4. We need to keep following the rules. 5 times 4 needs to happen before we add. So we get 24. 5 times 4 is 20. So 24 plus 20, that's all that's left. So I can just go straight to 44. And I'm done. All right. Up here on the right, 6 times 3 minus 12. That whole thing is in parentheses. and then I've got the squared up above. Then I'm going to divide by 9, and I'm going to add 7. Now there's a lot going on in this problem, so I'm going to pick just one thing at a time. My first thing I'm looking for are parentheses, and I've got parentheses right here. So everything inside needs to happen first. Now I have multiplication and subtraction. I know I need to multiply first. So 6 times 3, that's 18 minus 12 squared divided by 9 plus 7. 18 minus 12 is still in the parenthesis. So that becomes 6 squared divided by 9 plus 7. I'm done with my parentheses. Now I move down to exponents, and I've got one right here, 6 squared. 6 times 6 is 36 divided by 9 plus 7. No more parentheses, no more exponents, so multiply and divide. I've got division right here. 36 divided by 9 is 4 plus 7. And that's simple because that's all that's left. 4 plus 7 becomes 11. Okay? Now, on this last problem, I'm going to show you it on the calculator really quick. I know some of the other teachers are spending a whole day teaching you how to do this on the calculator, but there's some simple things I want you to understand about doing this correctly on the calculator. First thing I want you to do is everything you see in the picture, type in. Here's what a lot of people are going to do if they do it without really thinking about it. They're going to put 8 plus 22 divided by 5 times 5. And they hit enter. The problem is the calculator doesn't know that there were parentheses here because you didn't tell it that there was. So it's going to do things in the wrong order. So it's really important that I make sure that I do things in the right order and that I tell the calculator to do it correctly. So I can't just do 8 plus 22. I need to make parentheses just so that it looks exactly like the problem here. So 8 plus 22, 8 plus 22. Then I can divide by 5, multiply by 5. And now if I look at my picture, it looks the same as my problem right here, okay? We want to be really careful that we do this in the right order. This problem, because it does division and multiplication first, it doesn't matter that my 8 plus 22 wasn't in parentheses because plus comes after anyway. But we just need to make sure it doesn't always end up this way. They're not always going to come out to be the same answer. A lot of times you end up with something different. The only reason this worked is dividing by 5 and multiplying by 5 just takes us back to 22. So be careful that your picture looks the same as the picture on the paper so that you get the correct answer. All right? So you've got a few problems there at the bottom. Go ahead, try those on your own. I know, again, this was kind of a quick video, but it is all review. Hopefully you picked up what you need to. If there's questions that you have, if there's something you don't understand, raise your hand, come ask me. And remember, you can always rewind the video and go back and watch it again if there's something specific that you need to double check. All right, good luck.